watching San Diego News at 7.
Let's talk about restraining orders, because I think oftentimes when something violent does happen, you know, it'll come into the story that, oh, well, she had a restraining order, or he, depending on the case. What's your advice for people?
You know, you can go and get a restraining order from the court. That's called a domestic violence restraining order, especially when there is a relationship between the parties, when they're in a marital relationship or a non-marital relationship, when the parties live together. So if you go into court, you get a domestic violence restraining order. It has admonitions in there that they have to stay a certain period, area away from you, they have to stay away from your work, they have to stay away, not call you. That works if the person who is restrained is compliant. Where you have a situation where somebody is that violent and they are not compliant, they can rise to the occasion like this person did and become very violent. The thing that the domestic violence restraining order does give you the power to do is pick up the phone and call 911, and the police will come and then arrest the person.
Right. Okay, let's talk though, short of that, is there a general protocol that you follow? If you have a client that happens to come in, who happens to be a woman, who worries that her partner is potentially violent, do you have a series of steps which you say, do this, do this, do this? Right.
Yes, we do. If I have somebody who has been threatened with violence, or there has been threats of violence are already violence, and threats of violence can be, I am going to do this to you, or if you leave, this will happen, and it has occurred usually within about 30 days. There are certain things hoops you have to jump through with the family code. We have an exit strategy. I sit down with this person and I work out what is the plan going to be to make sure that they have funds to live, what they're going to do about their children or child. Are they going to leave the home? Are we going to get the restraining order and ask that the court make the other person leave the home and be escorted from there with the sheriff? Basically, before anything is filed with the court, we come up with a point-by-point plan to make sure that the party who is being harmed is safe.
I think what would be a real challenge is for a woman who, you know, felt somehow this threat, but nothing had actually happened. Maybe she's a little scared to look foolish or silly by, you know, making a bigger deal of it than is present.
Those are probably the most dangerous cases, because the courts are in an untenable situation, because the law is clear that unless there is violence or threats of violence, they are not supposed to issue a restraining order. So if I were to walk into court with, she thinks this will happen, she's not going to get that restraining order. But if I walk into court after it happens, I get it. So where you have a feeling, we still come up with an exit strategy where I try to work with the party who is worried about getting her to a friend's home, to a family member, getting her out of the situation without that other person knowing exactly where she's located. And then if violence occurs, I can go in and get the restraining order, but that's sort of like, you know, closing the barn door after the horses run free. It's difficult in those situations more so than any other.
Okay, last question just before we run out of time. Are you hopeful that exposure for this dreadful story will prompt more women in a vulnerable situation to be proactive?
I am very hopeful, because typically there are more women that are involved in a domestic violence situation than will ever report it. And domestic violence can occur anywhere from Rancho Santa Fe to El Cajon to anywhere. It happens in all social stratas, and most women do not report it. It's these sensationalized stories where something awful happens that we hear about it, and I hope that women out there who have had any form of domestic violence will report it, will walk away from the situation. Nobody deserves to be hit, ever.
Okay. I don't think that we made it graphic, but is there a telephone number of a place where you volunteer, or someplace where we can...
I don't have the phone number, but I volunteer at Project Sarah clinic at the Jewish Family Service.
Okay. Terrific. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Myra. Appreciate it.